Shall we risk the Pep Roulette for Game Week 31 captaincy, or is there a safer alternative solution? Let's analyse the data to find out. First up on the shortlist, we've got Mo Salah. He's playing against Villa at Anfield, and he seems to be finding his feet recently. He scored in his last 2 matches in all competitions. Second, we've got Bruno Fernandes. He's playing against Spurs. They conceded 2 goals in the last match against a wounded Newcastle side. Penultimately, we've got Raheem Sterling. I've included him on the shortlist because he didn't feature in City's last Champions League match, but to be fair, he did see reduced minutes in City's last Premier League match. Both him and his teammate Kevin De Bruyne have a favourable fixture against Leeds at the Etihad. There is a good chance that KDB does play, like Pep has suggested in the past, that he likes to play De Bruyne as much as he possibly can, and the Premier League isn't wrapped up yet. But that being said, Salah and Bruno are still more likely to play this game week ahead of the City lads. There are a few honourable mentions. You've got Jota from Liverpool. I prefer Salah because he's got his form back and he's on penalties. You could go for another City player. I've cherry picked these ones because they've got a high ceiling and there is a decent chance of them playing. And of course you could roll with Harry Kane if you want to go with form over fixture. Anyway, let's take a look at the underlying stats for this season. As you can see, it's clearly De Bruyne who comes out on top. Sterling has got the best non-penalty expected goals, just 0.02 ahead of Salah, but Salah's actually got the most goals per 90 minutes by quite a margin. As expected, the assisting king comes out on top, and the expected assist per 90 minutes and the assist per 90 minutes is actually averaging an assist every other game. His high expected assist per 90 minutes figure combined with his high non-penalty expected goals per 90 minutes figure brings him out on top with 0.83 non-penalty expected goal involvement per 90 minutes. Whilst Bruno Fernandes doesn't have promising underlying stats, he has been delivering on them. He's actually averaging more than 1 return per 90 minutes unlike any other player on the shortlist. In contrast to the non-penalty expected goals, it's also worth considering the penalties. Salah's on penalties for Liverpool, Bruno's on penalties for United, and I don't think Sterling or De Bruyne are on penalties for City. Aguero started to get minutes for Manchester City recently, and it looked like Mahrez picked up the ball for the possible penalty in the Champions League. Now let's take a look at the form of each player over the course of the last 5 matches. As you can see again, De Bruyne comes out on top. There's only the non-penalty expected goals per 90 minutes that he doesn't take the lead on, which is Sterling, and he at least matches 2 other players on the assist per 90 minutes. You could actually argue that Sterling has better underlying stats than De Bruyne because you get more points for a goal than you do for an assist in FPL. Whilst Salah has returned the least, his only goal came in his last match ending his goal scoring drought, and his underlying stats are pretty impressive, especially with them being heavily weighted on non-penalty expected goals. Bruno, however, he might have got an extra assist, but his underlying stats are far from promising. It goes without saying that Sterling and De Bruyne have the easiest opponents on the shortlist in Leeds. Salah's opponents, Aston Villa, have twice as much chance of getting a clean sheet, and Bruno's opponents, Spurs, are almost 5 times more likely. Not only do Leeds have a 5% chance of obtaining a clean sheet this game week, out of all the opponents on the shortlist, their expected goals conceded per 90 minutes figure is 0.4 higher than the other 2 teams, and they've actually conceded 1 extra goal for every 2 games played. Moreover, City have the best attack in the league, and Leeds have one of the worst defences. But based on the probability, Salah has the highest anytime goal scorer odds by 2%, and obviously De Bruyne has got the highest assisting odds by quite a margin. It's fair to say that Salah, Sterling and De Bruyne all have good chances of returning, not to forget that you get your 5 points for the goal as well. Unsurprisingly, Bruno has got the worst chance of scoring by quite a bit, and the worst chance of assisting. Not only that, he's got the second worst Fantasy Football Hub points projections by 0.1, and strangely enough he is ahead of Sterling there, but I think that's due to the risk of rotation. Both players have considerable Fantasy Football fixed points projections, with Bruno having 6.5 and Sterling having 6.3. The Hub and Fix are predicting Salah and De Bruyne to be the top 2 scorers. The Hub reckons the Egyptian will outscore the Belgian by 1 whole point, whilst the Fix have it the other way around by just 0.2. Considering the points projections as a whole, Salah comes out on top with more consistency. Let's see how much time each player has had to rest. First of all, Manchester United haven't yet played in the Europa League, so keep an eye out for Bruno's minutes in that one because he does get less than 3 days resting time. At this stage we know that Salah and De Bruyne are at a slight disadvantage because they did both play in the Champions League for 90 minutes, but they have got 3.5 days resting time, which isn't too bad. One thing we do know is that Sterling does have an advantage. He's had a week's rest and he only featured for 27 minutes in City's last Premier League match. Now there are two ways of looking at this. His reduced minutes mean that he's had plenty of rest and he should play the whole match, but it is an indication that there is a high risk of rotation. KDB himself isn't immune to rotation, because after all this fixture is sandwiched between two very important Champions League matches. De Bruyne played for the whole match in the last one, and it looks like City are going to wrap up the league soon. And now I'm going to wrap up the video, so we're going to do a process of elimination to pick the best captain. The first player that I'm going to eliminate is Bruno Fernandes. Now I'm not sure if he'll feature in the Europa League. If he does, he gets less than 3 days resting time, but most importantly his underlying stats aren't promising at all, and you could say that he's got the toughest opponents on the shortlist. It pains me to eliminate this player because in an ideal world, without the risk of rotation, he would be the captain, it would be De Bruyne. But like I mentioned earlier, he did play in the whole of the last match against Dortmund. There is a massive rotation risk there, and I don't want to take that risk. I'd rather play it safe. You might be wondering why Sterling's still on the shortlist. Well, if you take a look at his minutes recently, I do think he has a slightly better chance of playing, but that's just my opinion. After analysing the stats, I've realised that there's not much between Salah and Sterling. As a matter of fact, Salah is at a much lower risk of being rotated than Sterling. His Fantasy Football Hub and Fantasy Football Fixed points projections are higher, plus both Sterling and De Bruyne aren't on penalties like Salah. So based on those reasons, with less uncertainty, I'm tipping Salah as the best captain for Game Week 31. As a disclaimer, if one of the City lads start, I do think they've got a better chance of outscoring Salah, but obviously we've got to take that risk in hand, and I don't want to take that, but if you do, it's up to you. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you drop it a like because it really helps me out, and subscribe so you don't miss any future captain analysis videos.